Can code combat crime? Thankfully, clever programming is able to keep your online information nice and safe. You may have data online you don't want other people accessing. Let's say an account with a shopping website, or your online banking, or maybe you've signed up for one of these social media websites. I hear are all the rage these days. Whatever the case, you don't want other people pretending to be you, logging into your account, taking your information, taking your money, and updating your status to something hilarious. To stop this from happening, you have passwords. So let's say you sign up for the new social media craze, Insta-thing, and when you're signing up for an account at Insta-thing, you have to set a password. You choose some word you think no one else is going to guess, and that's then stored on the Insta-thing servers. So whenever you log in, you enter the password, Insta-thing makes sure it's your password, they let you in. And as long as no one else gets your password, your information is nice and safe. The risk here, though, is if Insta-thing has your password stored somewhere, if they get hacked, someone else might get access to it. Or what if they accidentally leak it? What if it gets out somehow? Or someone who works there sees it and can get into your account? It doesn't sound very secure. Thankfully, using very clever programming and a little bit of cunning mathematics, it's possible for Insta-thing to store your password without ever knowing what it is. In fact, they won't have any actual copy of your password, but yet they can still check it's you when you log in. To demonstrate how this works, I'm going to show you a fun game. Spoiler alert. It's not actually fun. But the way this game works is I'm currently thinking of a secret 4-digit number, and you have to try and guess what it is. And if you guess my secret 4-digit number correct, you win some hypothetical prize. Now the problem with this game, other than the lack of fun, is I could cheat. Because if you don't know my secret number, I could change it. I can just pretend you always get it wrong. You need some way of checking if you got it right, even though you don't know what the number is. And so to do that, I'm going to give you a special code. The special code is the 8-digit number 84465408. And the way I got that number was I took my secret 4-digit number and ran it through a complicated mathematical function. In fact, I took the number, I added all the digits together, I then used the original number to the power of the sum of its digits, which gives you a very long answer. I just took the last 8 digits of that answer, and it turns out they're 84465408. So if you have a guess, you can run your 4-digit guess through that function and see what answer comes out the other end. And if it's not 84465408, you know your guess was wrong. But the genius thing is, even though you know the answer to that function when you put in my secret number, you can't reverse it to get back to that number. It's a one-way function. In fact, in programming, we call it a one-way hashing function. And the number that comes out the end of a hashing function, we call the hash. And so I've got a secret number in my head, and I've told you that the hash of that number is 84465408. That means you can check if your guess is correct, but you can't actually work out what the number is. And this is how passwords work. When you give your password to Insta-thing, it doesn't store your actual password. It puts it through a much more complicated hashing function than mine. It gives you a much bigger hash, and then it stores that on its server. And so whenever you go to log in, you enter your password, Insta-thing takes the password, puts it through the same hashing function again, and checks if the outputs match. And if the output matches the hash it's got on file, it knows your password must have been correct. If they don't match, it knows you got it wrong. And it can do all of that without ever actually knowing what your password is. Now, of course, this isn't the whole story, and there are possible other weaknesses to the hashing system, and of course the function that websites actually use is far more complicated than the one I described, and people are constantly coming up with new and better hashing functions, and that's what we need to keep our online information safe. We need people constantly developing new and better methods to make sure no one else can access our online information. And that's why we need people like you to go into programming. We need clever people who can write cunning code and use ingenious bits of mathematics to make sure we can all use the internet and keep our personal information personal. Oh, and in case you were wondering, my 4-digit code was 2212. See if you can check to make sure it matches the hash I gave you earlier.